So we've got a pinion, crown wheel, and that's a little pinion gear. These two here would be what we call the sun gears, so they actually go on the ends of the half shafts. We've got a spider, which is a three-way spider, and these little gears sit on the spider, and they're called the planet gears. So these little gears go around the sun gears. It's all part of the differential assembly. We've got a couple of bearings there, and that's called the diff carrier bearings. And going back to the main housing, we've actually got two bearings in the main housing, there and there, and they're called the pinion bearings. So the pinion would actually sit in through there, but we'll do that as part of the build. These two washers here are shim washers that go between the diff carrier bearing and the diff carrier, and that determines the depth of mesh. These are little adapters, they're drivers to drive the insides of the wheels, and these are bearing carriers that go onto the end of the main housing. So starting off with the main housing, the work that I've done here is to cut off the extension tubes, and I've left 7mm off the end to fit the cups to. I've bored out, or bored right the way through, and threaded these two M3s, and that's in preparation to mount the axle into whatever frame I'll be putting this into. So if we take this apart, you can see on the inside we've got the diff pinion bearing and the main sort of diff carrier assembly. So I think what we'll do is just start off just putting the pinion gear in first of all, and we'll just give it a quick dab with some silicone grease. This little pinion gear is screwed on the end. Grease that up and push that into the main housing. There it is. We can start to build up the differential carrier. So the components we've got there is this. Again, it's a plastic nylon hub assembly, and we'll need the half shafts. Now again, I've cut these down. This is one of the original holes, and that housed the little nylon bush. Now because we've cut a lot off the length, we no longer need to support the centre of that. So here's an example of how much I've taken off the length of the shaft, just as a example there. That was it in its original state. There's going to be a few alterations in here, so I'll just build this up as we're going. So these are the two sun gears. They slot on the ends of the half shafts like so, and they're held in position. 2 screws in the end of there. The next item is the crown wheel, and that's got 3 holes in, or 3 countersunk holes to accept 3 countersunk screws, and that is engaged to the drive pinion. And at this point I'll just have we got 39 teeth on the crown wheel and 14 on the pinion gear, so there's 14 teeth on that, and that gives us a ratio of about 2.5 to 1 roughly. It's not exactly, so that's means the pinion shaft turns 2.5 turns to 1 complete turn of the crown wheel. So grease that up. One will go through into this housing like so, and the other one passes through the crown wheel. Okay, so that's allowed to turn inside of that. Right, so the next components would be this spider and these little planet wheels or planet gears. So there's 3 of those, and there's 3 brass washers, thrust washers they are, to go on there. So what I'll do is I'll grease these up and put these little gears complete with the washer onto the spider. Now we've got the little pinion gears onto the spider, and they're all looking in towards the centre, and each one I've got their little brass thrust washers on. So the next bit we've got to do is to get it inside that housing. Okay, so it goes up against the gear inside. Now the best way I've found to do it is there's 3 slots in the side, and they line up with the pins on the spider. So what I'll do is carefully put that over the top like that, so he's fitting flush. Okay, and I'll take him to the edge of the bench and pick him up, and there's the 3 planet gears inside. So we got the 3 planet gears on the spider in the housing, and now I'll just put a bit of silicone grease inside. Then the next thing will be the other half shaft, which sits in there, and the crown wheel sits into the diff carrier. The crown wheel has got 3 locating lugs that coincide with those slots in the diff carrier. Okay, so now we've got that screwed together, we can check the operation of the diff. If I push that through the drive shaft there, hold the crown wheel, you can see that the shaft the lower shaft to turn in the opposite direction to what I'm turning. So that means that the planet gears, the sun gear is driving the planet gears around, and it's reacting in the opposite direction on the sun gear on the other side. So I can also check by holding one side and turning the crown wheel and see that the half shaft is turning on there. So it's actually rotating faster than the crown wheel. So we know that's working okay.